Welcome back to Technique Tuesday. Today, we're gonna talk about how you can use lighting to transform your shot that might look like this with no video lights, just the house lights, into a cinematic shot like this using 4-point lighting with video lights so you can start having cinematic looking videos yourself. For this video to demonstrate all the lighting techniques, we're gonna be using these video lights, these chip on board or cob lights from Colbor. And if you're interested in learning more about these, I will be doing a review on them, which will be coming out later this week. So get subscribed if you wanna see that. So jumping right into it, we're gonna start off with just the house lights, right? So no video lights, just the house lights. It doesn't look horrible. It just looks kind of flat. The lighting's just not very intentional. And I'm sitting here with a $3,500 camera, a full frame camera with a lens that opens up to f2.8. And I'm just sitting here going, why does my image look so boring and why is there no subject separation? Well, that's because lighting has to do so much with how good a video looks, like way more than what camera and what lens you're using. So we're gonna go ahead and build up a cinematic looking lighting setup using a 4-point lighting setup. So to do that, we're gonna go ahead and turn off all of the lights so we can start with a nice little base layer of just no lights and build on top of that. So for our first light, we're gonna go ahead and add a key light. There we go. A key light is the primary light that you're gonna be using to light your subject. This is probably gonna be the light that you have on the highest brightness, and this is the one that you're gonna be exposing for in camera. Now, for your key light, you're typically either gonna want it to either side of your subject or above or below. And what that's gonna do is go ahead and obviously expose your subject, but also start creating some of these shadows and start creating some dimension for your subject. And of course, you can go ahead and manipulate this as much as you'd like. The more side on the light is, the more dramatic the shadows are gonna be, right? And it's gonna be more intense, sidely lit. While if you bring it to the front or make the source of the light bigger, you're gonna start getting a softer looking image. So for me, I like to set it off 45 degrees to one side, right about there. And with just a single light, you've already added a lot of shape, a lot of dimensionality, a lot of character to your shot. If you're looking for something super moody with a super dark background where it's just your subject that's lit up, you can kind of stop here. But we're gonna keep going. I wanna address the shadows on this side of the face using our second light, a fill light. A fill light does, well, exactly what it sounds like it does. It fills in the shadows and is typically placed opposite of where your key light is. So my key light is currently 45 degrees to my left, a little bit above, pointed down. So my fill light is gonna be on the opposite side, similar setup, 45 degrees away from me, a little bit higher up, pointing down. Now, one thing you're typically gonna do with your fill light is gonna have it on a lower brightness or lower intensity compared to your key light, because again, you're not trying to blast as much light as possible, unless that's the look you're going for. But for me, I'm just trying to kind of fill in some of these dark shadows so I don't have such a high contrast image. One thing I like to make sure is my key light and my fill light are usually the same color temperature. Both of them are currently set to 5600 Kelvin. And for my camera's white balance to be set to the same thing as my lights. So in this case, 5600 Kelvin on the camera as well. This will give me the most natural, bright whites. Whites will be whites, blacks will be blacks, grays will be grays. One of the reasons why I like to use 5600 Kelvin is because that's daylight color temperature. So if I do have my window open, if I'm using my key light or a fill light at 5600 Kelvin, my camera set to 5600 Kelvin, right, the window or the light that's spilling in from the outside won't look too blue or too orange. All right, now you'll see that with the key light on and the fill light on, I'm pretty well exposed for the image. But one thing you will notice is that if you have darker skin or especially dark hair or dark clothing on, you're gonna start blending into the background if the background's not lit and or just the background's just dark in general. So one way to separate yourself from the background is utilizing the third light, a rim light. So a rim light or hair light, or also known as backlight, does exactly that. It basically adds a splash of light to kind of outline you, to separate you out from the background. And the goal here really is to, let me show you, there we go, create kind of this edge you're seeing right here, right? Lighting on my shoulder, lighting on my head. So now my hair and my shirt isn't just blending directly into the background. So you can see real quick, without and with. So now we've got your pretty standard 3-point lighting. In most scenarios, this is typically what I'd use to light a subject, like for example, an interview, which if you think about it, when I'm doing my YouTube videos, I'm doing my A-roll talking, I'm basically doing a very standard interview setup. Now, if you were in a location with a lot of natural light with big windows behind you or office lights or whatever it might be, then this would be all you would need. But as you can tell, I'm in a small little studio room right now, and the background is super dark because these are the only 3 lights that are in play. So now we add our 4th light to our 4-point lighting setup. the background light. So let's go ahead and just pop on the background light. Let's go ahead and blast that up there. And now we have subject separation completely from the background. Now, of course, it's up to personal choice, but I like to make the background just a little bit darker than my foreground, so that way you're creating this 3D effect, right? With the combination of the rim light that goes ahead and outlines your subject, as well as a lit, but less exposed background, you kind of create this 3D popping effect where the subject really has dimensionality and is really the focus of the video. Now, that alone, you've already created what I would call cinematic lighting, or intentional lighting that you would find whether it's in a movie or you're doing a commercial or an interview or a documentary. This is basically what your standard 3 or 4 point lighting setup would look like. Now, there's something else you can also do with this setup to make it a little bit more fancy, and obviously this will depend on if you have lights that can do this. But if you have lights that are capable of RGB, for example, I'm currently rocking these Colbor CL60Rs, which are RGB COB lights, which is super cool, by the way. I'm really excited to talk about this in the review coming later this week. But you could also use other types of lights like RGB tube lights or RGB panel lights. But with that, you can start creating different effects. Now we're getting really dramatic, really stylized, very John Wick neon-esque. But regardless what intensity you use, what color temperature or RGB values you use, you kind of see how dynamic this 4-point lighting setup is. This is why this is a standard lighting setup, right? You have your key light hitting one side, you have your fill light filling in the shadows just a little bit, you have your rim light to pop your subject off the background, and then you have your background light to kind of, give the background a little bit more dimension and intentionality. Now, with this simple setup, even if you remove the background light, if you practice with this standard 3-point lighting, your key light, your fill light, and your rim light, you're really gonna start expanding your ability to create these cinematically well-lit looking shots. Look at that, this is a unique looking shot. This is, honestly, I've never really messed around with RGB lighting that much, but I've been wanting to kind of get more into creating these very stylistic looks, and this looks pretty dope. And there are so many different ways you can set up your lighting to kind of get that cinematic vibe, right? But this is a trusted and go-to standard 4-point lighting setup. But there are tons of other different ways to light your shot. There's things like Rembrandt lighting, there's things like split lighting, and a lot of that, drives different kind of emotions and different kinds of looks, whether you're looking for something high key or looking for something moodier. And if you want me to kind of go deeper into that subject, let me know in the comment section down below, and I'd be happy to make more lighting videos for maybe the next Technique Tuesday. All right, now you know how to use lighting to kind of separate your subject from the background and create a cinematic looking shot. But if you don't know how to separate your background from your subject using depth of field, that blurry background effect, well, then you should definitely check out this video I made on just that topic. All right, that's it for this one. As always, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.